super ice cold milk, really fresh, full cream on a hot sunny day. Tastes just like ice cream. Oh, lovely. Not a bad way to start a vlog, eh? Last time in part 2 of our journey through the Lea Valley Regional Park, it started to rain towards the end, so I flew past this bit here in the background. There's a vending machine over there selling fresh milk, as you've just seen, but that belongs to the Lea Valley Park farm. Now, incorrectly I told you last time that the Holyfield farm over the back there was closed to the public. It is in general terms, but they also use it as part of the park farm, and they take people with that tractor and trailer over there for a guided tour around the farm so they can see a working farm, a working dairy farm. The farm itself produces over 3,000 litres of milk every single day, and that gets sold to Asda supermarkets in the UK. I've got to say, it tastes really nice as well. But from here we're going to head towards Cheshunt, and I'll show you a few of the sights on the way back to the canal, and then we're going to make our way down towards Walthamstow today. Right, let's make a move then. The weather is absolutely gorgeous again today. It's just right for cycling. It's about 17, 18 degrees. What's that, mid-60s Fahrenheit, so it's not too hot. Yeah, it's just right. So we're still in the Lea Valley Country Park at the moment, headed back towards the canal and the Lea River. And I think, as I said at the end of part 2, this is just woodland and marshland. But it's absolutely covered in trails, and you will have seen me riding around this one in several of my vlogs, both recently and over the last couple of years, because it's a particularly nice place to come and ride. All the trails are made up with a hard surface, and as a rule there aren't too many people here, although that's been increasing in number over the last week or two as the lockdown seems to have less and less of an effect in the UK. People are just paying less and less attention to it. But I don't really mind, so long as they continue to social distance properly, then it's no real great concern. So the bridge goes over the River Lea, and immediately on the other side is 70 Acre Lake. We briefly saw this the other day, I think, on the camera. "70 Acre Lake" is very much a bird sanctuary. And just over to my right at the moment is a information point about bitterns. Anybody doesn't know what a bittern is, I'll put a picture on the screen. But it's a fairly rare bird in the UK. I've still yet to see one. I'd love to see one. Lovely lake though. Squabbling seagulls, eh? So with 70 Acre Lake on my right and the River Lea on the left, we follow this really lovely windy path. This area is called Hook's Marsh. And this really gorgeous path is still part of the Route 1. I think it's wonderful. I do love coming down here at all times of the year. I think you can see why I enjoy riding along this part of the trail. It really is beautiful. Absolutely full of wildlife. And yes, I haven't forgotten, that is one of the topics that I shall be talking about later in the week. The wildlife of the Lea Valley. We'll get to it. Plenty of time, lots of days to fill. So once we're through Hooks Marsh car park, we then head on this really nice wide path down to Cheshunt and the Whitewater Center. On the opposite bank over there is the Royal Gunpowder Mills. I don't actually know that much about it, but I do know that it's closed at the moment, but normally when it's open to the public, it's not a cycling place as such. It's just a place where people can visit for the day. It's got a museum, miniature railway, and some gardens. It's a rather nice place to visit apparently, but I haven't been in there as yet. I will do it one day. So you remember in part 1 I was telling you about the way there's paths leading off to the left and the right all the way along here. Well, on my right as I go along here is a great big open space full of lakes and pathways. Lots of them just pedestrian. Yeah. And those pathways go between this, the National Cycle Route number 1, and the canal, which is about probably half a mile to my right. So I have the river on my immediate left, then lots of lakes and wonderful pathways, and then the canal. And then on the opposite side of that is the other little bit that I showed you from the Whitewater Center last time we were here, and we'll get to that in a moment. But there's more parkland on that side as well. As I explained last time, the country park at this point is over 6,000 acres, so there's plenty of it. Yeah, there's just too many people along here today. I think the lockdown is just having less and less of an effect. There's more and more people wherever you go. Just something I shall have to get used to, I suppose. As I said, as long as there's social distancing, it's not really a problem. But it does get a bit crazy in places. Especially when they spread out right across the road. And don't look where they're going because they're blowing bubbles. Right, let's go this way. So just through here, this enormous expanse of a field is the Lea Valley Showground. Now, for the life of me, I have never seen or heard of a show happening on the Lea Valley Showground. I'm sure it does, and I'm sure it would be a very nice place to have a showground as well. It really is a huge open space. So then we just go up this slope over the bridge, which goes over the canal, and then we're at the Whitewater Center. And that's where we'll start part 3 of our ride through the Lea Valley Regional Park. So inside that rather imposing looking fence is the Lea Valley Whitewater Center. One of the leftovers from the 2012 Olympics. And one day when it's open again, I'll come down here and we'll ride round and have a look. And just round the corner from the Whitewater Center is the Lea Valley Disc Golf Course, which I was telling you about last time, with the rules, how to play, and a layout of the course on that sign. I really should give that a go one day. And then this parkland continues for another few hundred acres with these well made up trails. This path actually continues through and goes over a railway line into Cheshunt. So we won't go too much further down here because we're actually going in the wrong direction now, but I just thought I'd bring you along to show you more pretty parkland. I have to say that this golf course looks like a hay fever sufferer's nightmare at the moment. But it does look pretty all the same. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of blossom. So after the Whitewater Center, the park becomes very narrow, little more than just the canal and the towpath along the side of it, until we get down another couple of miles and it'll widen back out again. And if you've been watching any of my vlogs over the last few weeks, this is a part of the trail that you'll know quite well. I come along here quite often because we're getting closer and closer to my home. Thanks, mate. I did notice on the way up here today that one of the cafes has reopened for a takeaway service just when we get past the M25 motorway bridge here, which will be quite nice in the coming days if I feel the need to stop and have a sandwich. Yeah, I shall look forward to frequenting that. Sandwich and a coffee. So there we go, that's the M25 road bridge over the Lea Valley. The M25 being the main orbital motorway around Greater London. So somewhere here we are cycling out of Hertfordshire and into Greater London. And that will be the Greater London Borough of Enfield, I believe. So on the opposite side there are some private moorings with small gardens, electrical hookups, and very nice place to live, I'm sure. Now coming up on my right is the entrance to Marsh. We won't be going in there, but it's another one of those places that just has pathways all over it for cyclists and walkers. There we go, that's the entrance to that one. It's got some very rough paths in there for cyclists. Nice if you're on a mountain bike. The slightest little bit of wet and you start to slip and slide all over the place. So on the left, as we go along here on the opposite bank, is the Enfield Island Village. It has the river one side, the canal the other, and the island village in between. On the other side of that is Gunpowder Park, which is a place that I did promise we're going to go back to, and so that's going to be our next stopping off point. So this is Gunpowder Park. As I explained to you a few vlogs ago, it's a fairly new park with new tree planting, and has only just recently been turned over as a wildlife sanctuary rather than its rather explosive past. So up until just after the Second World War, Waltham Abbey and the Royal Gunpowder Mills and this area here were one of the world centres for the development of TNT. And after the Second World War, when TNT based explosives fell out of use, it was decided that it really wasn't necessary to have this anymore. They had this huge area for testing the explosives. So much of the way the park was when it was being used for testing explosives has been left. So there are banks of earth that have been built up, and there's a whole area around here called the Plateau, which is over there in that direction somewhere. But that's then surrounded by marshland and new planted woodland. The park itself, as with all the parks around this area, are maintained by the Lea Valley Regional Authority. This park is actually linked via just one small road up to Epping Forest. But Epping Forest is about 140 feet higher than any of this park. And some of you may have seen the vlog where I climbed the hill from Gunpowder Park up to the forest. Quite a steep hill it is too. I don't actually know how big this park is, I couldn't find out, but I would say it's at least 2 or 3 miles square. Again, it's really pleasant to ride around. He's got these hard made up surfaces. And our National Cycle Route number 1 skirts just through the side of it, back behind me, although cycling is allowed all the way around the park. So one of my favourite parts of coming to Gunpowder Park is this sort of landscape is perfect for nesting skylarks, and the song of a skylark is just wonderful. And all spring and summer I can come here and listen to the skylarks singing. And just on cue, he almost started singing then. There he is. A park where so much destruction was wrought. These little birds, these little skylarks, are now making their homes here, and that wonderful song is really, really pretty. So up there is the plateau. It's probably only about 5 or 6 metres higher than the rest of the surrounding land. But that's where the skylarks are nesting, up on there. Perfect place for them. Very few paths up there for humans, so they get left undisturbed. And then over on this other side is marshland and into the wood. And in the winter time, after some rain, that really is like a bog in there again, so not too many human pathways going through there, which is all good for the wildlife. But there we go, that was Gunpowder Park. We'll now go back through the island village and back out onto the canal and head south. So now we're back on the canal again after Gunpowder Park. Much of the next 3, 4, maybe even 5 miles you'll have seen on my vlogs endlessly over the last month. There's very little to add. This is a very thin part of the park. It is pretty much just what you see to my right. It's the canal, and we're going through an industrial part of Enfield in North London. On the left hand side are some of London's reservoirs, our water reservoirs, and they supply a major part of the drinking water to Greater London. But as I say, the park itself very thin at this point, and until we get down to Walthamstow and the marshes down there, Tottenham Marshes and Walthamstow Marshes, there's not a lot more that I can tell you than what you're looking at through the camera lens now. Just beautiful canal bank. So nothing has changed in the UK. We're still under lockdown, all the same rules are in place. But as I ride along here today, and there are more people down here now than there were at the weekends when the lockdown first started. There are walkers and cyclists and people who are not caring about social distancing at all, around in big groups, having picnics. It's funny, isn't it? Lockdowns only last so long, and then people just get bored of it. Thank you. I think part of our government's argument for not starting the lockdown in the UK as early as they could have done was that they said the longer that it went on, the harder the lockdown would be to enforce, and that people just wouldn't be able to stay indoors for that length of time. And I think this is proof positive of that, because this is getting beyond a joke. Thank you. Oh dear. I'm going to have to try coming down here earlier, I think. Early in the morning. Should be less people down here then. The pattern for my day at the moment has been get up, do a few hours work, go out for some exercise, then go home, finish my work for the day, and then edit the vlog. But I think I'm just going to have to change that pattern, aren't I? Because this is just not working. There's far too many people later in the day. We'll see what it's like earlier in the morning. Cheers guys, thank you. Part of me is hoping the lockdown ends very soon, so that we can get back to some sort of semblance of normal, because there was never this many people on the canal before the lockdown. It's crazy, isn't it? You put the country on lockdown and these places get busier. Alright. Hello guys. You alright? Problem is, yeah, everybody's looking for their exercise, and whilst all the gyms are closed, everybody looks for the pretty places to go and walk and ride, and we just end up with this busyness. Right, I'm going to have to put the camera down for a little while. This is getting too busy. Yeah, I'll get back with you when we get on the wider path. So I've come away from the canal just for 5 minutes as we finish today's vlog. Got a little bit too busy on the canal, but I've come across Walthamstow Marsh and onto the opposite side of the reservoirs just to finish the ride, and we're now coming up on Walthamstow Wetlands, which is where I will call this one. Thank you. And that's about it for today. The wetlands don't actually form part of the regional park, even though they fall within the bounds of it. but they're actually owned by the local water authority and were opened up just last year as the largest wetland park in Europe. But we will come back and look at those in the next part, which will be part 4. But for today, as I said, that's it. So we've done from the Whitewater Center to the Walthamstow Wetlands. And that's through that gate there, and that's where we'll start part 4. So we're going to call this one Whitewater to Wetlands. How's that sound? Meanwhile, just up here for me is home, where I can have a nice cup of coffee and a bite to eat. That'll be nice. I hope you enjoyed that part 3 through the Lea Valley Regional Park. I'll be back with part 4 again really soon. Cheers then guys, take care. Ta-da.